Hello, anti-novelists, Lilligans, curious onlookers, and friends. Welcome to this episode of Zettelkasten for Fiction, where imagination finds order, the book that I am writing for you in order to help you get your book written. So let's get right into it. Today, I want to talk a little bit about going down rabbit holes in your research and reasons to set your Zettelkasten aside in some regards and pick up other threads instead. Some of you may know that a key piece of my novel revolves around the Voynich manuscript. This is the most recent transcription. It's a facsimile that the Yale Beinecke Library was so gracious to allow a much more recent set of photographs to be taken of each and every page of the entire Voynich manuscript. It was edited by Raymond Clements with an introduction by Deborah Harkness. Super cool, awesome resource. So it literally goes through page by page by page and gives you a very beautiful look at every page of the Voynich manuscript. So why is this important? Well, let's look at a set of cards that I have pulled out of my Zettelkasten. My 1200 card says castles, and I have a little reminder note here to see Wikipedia for structure. Now, often the notes that you make in your Zettelkasten are going to be cryptic or diffuse to anyone else looking at them. I happen to know that this note is telling me to go on to my castles research. So this card references the Villa Mandragoni in Castelli Romani. If I go to the card that follows that, it gives me some more details about it. So this speaks directly to going down a rabbit hole, doing your research, and then making discerning choices about what research to use in your story and what research to let it go by the wayside. So let's look. I've got the Villa Mandragoni is in an area of Castelli Romani. It's 12 miles southeast of Rome near Tusculum. I've got a bunch of notes. In 1865, the Jesuits turned it into a college for young aristocrats. Then I note the Nobile Collegio Mandragoni was operational until 1953. Then I've got a note in 1912. Funding needs meant that they had to sell some of their literary holdings, which means they had to liquidate some of their book collection. That is how William Voynich came to purchase the original Voynich manuscript, which to this day is still unreadable, and there is hot and wide debate about what it actually means, who wrote it, etc., and so forth. So for me, it was a perfect foundation to build the novel that I'm writing on, which, as you know, I've set writing that novel aside. The novel is finished, but I'm in the middle of a developmental edit, and I've set that edit aside so that I can finish the Zettelkasten for Fiction book for you. So the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I got a question about how do you choose in your research what you use in your story. Villa Mandragoni is a perfect example of that. I really don't need any of that castle backstory. Jesuits needed to fund their mission, sold off a bunch of books. That's how William Voynich came to possess the Voynich manuscript. None of that is really important to my story, even though the research and the discovery process was super cool and fun. So I made a decision that instead of using this research about the castle and the provenance of the book, I would lean into the actual content of the book itself. Therefore, we go to page 46 recto. This page plays a prominent role in my story. And then we go to some of the other maps and crazy drawings and things that appear in the book. Some of these may play a teeny tiny part, but for the most part, page 46 recto and a couple of other items are more important. Specifically, when I set aside the castle research and the provenance, and I started looking at what's missing. Well, there are several groups of pages that are missing from the manuscript. Now, this research has not yet made it into my Zettelkasten cards. I have a placeholder over where this will go, but I've not condensed it down yet into note cards. So this is still work in progress, but as I said, I've set some of this stuff aside so that I can get the Zettelkasten for Fiction book done for you. So in this way, what I discovered is the information that I found about the missing pages was way more interesting to me and had much better options for applying it to fiction than the castle research that I did. So that's a decision that I made in the writing process. I decided to set aside the castle bits, the provenance bits, and instead focus on the missing pages. Because in my mind, that's just a little more interesting. And as a fiction writer, it gives you a lot more latitude for story because you're not bound by reality. So as I continue working on my developmental edit, I have a missing page, page 9798, and that is what I have focused on in order to create a turning plot point in the story. So the reason I tell you this is because Teresa4949 asked me, how do you choose the details? Well, I've just walked you through it. You have to do your research, whether you're dealing with a particular historical object like the Voynich manuscript, or you're dealing with a place. Maybe you're going to use the Eiffel Tower, or maybe you're going to use the Hoover Dam, or you're going to use the OK Corral. Whatever you choose, dive deep into that item and its history and its associations and the people that were surrounding it. Do as much deep and wide as you can, and then after you've created those cards, look at the pieces in the context of the story that you want to tell, and that's how you make your decision. Are the pieces that I've discovered in my research important and relevant and something that I can work with to mold? Or are the missing pieces the more interesting pieces? And those are the ones that I want to work with and mold and weave into my story. Or maybe it's a combination of the two. That, my friend, is up to you as the author. But the important piece here is do your research, create the cards based on that research, deep and wide, go as far down the rabbit hole as you want to, entertain yourself, have a blast doing it, and then think about your story. What does it need? What does it require? And how are you going to tell the best story that you can by wrapping those threads together? You may find that the thing that makes its way into your story is actually the thing that's missing from what you were researching. That's what I found. Or you might anchor those details in something that is very thoroughly grounded in reality, and that's what you choose to go with. The answer, my friend, is up to you as the author, and that's what makes it fun. That's why we write. Then we can write the best story we can for our readers, and our readers are our rock stars, because without them, we would have no reason to write. So that answers the question of how to look over the details that you have found in your research and how to choose the thing that best serves your story. With that, I will leave you. I will see you again tomorrow. We're going to continue talking about world building and research-driven writing and how all of those things find their way over into your Zettelkasten or your note box at the end of the day so that you can write the best story that you can. So I will see you tomorrow.